Hello, welcome to the show. Can you ever imagine that back in the 80s you were accused of a crime that you may say, I've admitted to this, but you may say you never admitted that you never did this and you claim it's a false allegation? What if you realize you work for the school, you did something you weren't supposed to do, that claims to be a false allegation? Second, what happened? This is what happened in Cheney High School, where that music director Michael Alstead is now facing a lawsuit that's happened. So this is what we know from the description. Alstead was band director at Cheney from 1982 to 1986, 4 years. Now a student from that same time. Now people are saying that something else is happening. Tonight, you will hear one student. That student is now coming forward with allegations of abuse. The victim, who was a former member of the band, said Alstead abused her for 2 years while she was a minor in the school percussion room and in the band room. In that lawsuit, it claimed that the school district knew about the abuse and failed to report it. Around that time in 1986, Alstead resigned from Cheney and was hired at the Aberdeen School District, where multiple claims of abuse were reported against Alstead. Alstead admitted one lawsuit to abusing a student in Aberdeen. You will also hear from the attorney who was representing the victim, who says Cheney should have told Aberdeen about the allegations. Take a look.
Well, these lawsuits are piling up. Michael Alstead, who was the music director for Cheney High School from 1982 to 1986. At least one student who attended Cheney High School during that time frame is speaking out, saying she was a member of the band and Alstead sexually abused her for 2 years while she was a minor. Now, in this lawsuit, the victim, who we will not name, says the first incident of sexual assault took place at the Cheney Middle School percussion room. The next instance at the Cheney High School band room. This lawsuit claims that the Cheney School District was aware of this abuse and failed to report it. One of the many reasons that's important is because in 1986, Alstead resigned from Cheney and was hired at the Aberdeen School District, where multiple students during that time frame have come forward with similar allegations.
The claim against Cheney School District is that they knew specifically that he'd been involved in sexual abuse complaints that were virtually verified, and then said nothing to the Aberdeen School District after they were going through their process of checking references to determine whether they should hire him.
And we reached out to the Cheney School District about this lawsuit, and they declined to comment. Alstead admitted to abuse during one of these lawsuits involving an Aberdeen student. But coming up here at 6 o'clock tonight, a more detailed timeline of these lawsuits and how much has been awarded in settlements so far. In studio tonight, Jordan Smith, 4 News Now.
But we probably won't know until we find the actual video. There's no actual video. So by that time, we'll never know. But common sense alert.
Their premium version really takes things to the next level with in-depth feedback on things like vocabulary, conciseness, and tempo.
Common sense alert. If your teacher is accused, if one of your employees is accused of sexual abuse, you need to report it to the state, to your state Department of Education. They will do things to help you by the letter. You don't just push it away and say, hey, we don't care. You have to report it. If you don't report it, it's going to happen again. And if he goes to another school and teach, you need to start warning the school district, hey, our former employer sexually abused these students at the previous school. You should be hiring him. You should be on the lookout. That's why you guys are getting sued, because you guys are not doing anything. You're not doing anything. You're not doing whatever it takes to make sure this doesn't happen again. And by Jove, if I was working with the district and they found out that it was me, I'd fess up to sexual abuse, and I would not resign. I would be fired. I'd be fired. I'd be fired and not be allowed to teach. My teaching certificate would be withdrawn. And there would be no lawsuits. If he claimed that I sexually abused him or her, yeah. That would be the case here. That'd be the whole case. So what's the common sense perspective? Schools need to do better. Investigate, report it, and take swift action. Very swift action, and not put teachers in rubber rooms because of their incidents. Coming up next, we are going to show you what a rubber room looks like for all teachers who have been suspended. We talked about this in Stupid America, where teachers who sexually abuse them by email, because it takes years and years in one state. It's called the dance of the lemons. We're going to show you what the rubber room means and what teachers do. Then later on, our Flashback Friday begins. Stay with us. Last season, we talked about Stupid in America, where schools are cheating their kids. We also focused on teachers and the rubber rooms. What is a rubber room? Well, if you remember from the episode, it's not really made of rubber, but they just hang around and waste your money. Because it's difficult to fire a teacher. It takes years and years. It's almost impossible. We're now going to show you what a rubber room looks like with the help of CNN. Take a look.
It's such a waste of resources. David Zucker is a teacher, but he has no students.
So you've been a teacher for 12 years?
Yes.
For the last year and a half, what have you been doing?
I've been sitting in a rubber room. What did I do today?
Yeah, what did you do
I
today?
packed up my stuff, played some spades, and left.
And your salary is?
$80,000. I mean, there's lots of teachers.
About 500 New York City teachers like Zucker were assigned to rubber rooms when school ended in June. Together, these teachers earned an estimated $30 million a year to simply show up and sit in a room for 8 hours, according to the city's education department. Some of them, including Zucker, claim they don't know what they're charged with.
I don't deserve to be treated like this.
He says he shouldn't be there, but should be back in the classroom teaching his students.
This process should have taken at most 2 to 3 weeks.
We weren't allowed to take our cameras inside a temporary reassessment center.
Well, he went to the rubber room for.
But filmmaker Justin Segner got inside while making his documentary, The Rubber Room.
When I watched it, I said, come on. Who let you film them sleeping?
Well, we weren't allowed to. We had to sneak in.
It's really up to you what you wanted to do, but you were given no guidance.
There's a lot of sleeping. They read, they paint, they do yoga, there's karate, they have book clubs. But, having said that, it's not a very pleasant place.
What's the most amount of times you heard anybody who was in there?
We talked to a guy who was in there 12 years.
So how could the nation's largest school district afford to let a teacher sit in a rubber room for 12 years?
We had basically 2 problems. One was that the system takes a very long time in order to get to the end of the charges.
But you're in charge of that, though.
So, well, it's a due process system. It's set up by state law that takes a long time to do. The second is that we didn't have really an agreement with the union as to where we could put these people if they weren't teaching.
Beth says all of that will change when a new agreement with the teachers union takes effect in the fall.
We're going to have very strict timelines for investigations where teachers are reassigned out of the classrooms. We have 60 days once they're reassigned to get the investigation done, and then 60 days after that to do the formal charges and hearing. While that's going on, they can be assigned to administrative offices or to non-teaching duties in the school so that they're doing something while this is going on and they're still getting paid.
The education of young people.
Department officials say they expect to rule on hundreds of backlog cases by December. But until then, teachers like Zucker will not be in the classroom.
There are children who are out there who are losing access to resources because they're being paid $80,000.
Right. Am I outraged by that the taxpayers are paying footing this bill? Yes, I am outraged. But should you blame me? I don't think you should blame me. I think you should blame the Department of Education that has let this bureaucracy flounder for so long.
before I took the Google Eyes.
It's like this. We waste money. You send teachers to our room, New York City wastes their money. They sit there for like 8 hours a day. They sit down, hang out, do whatever they want to do, all while wasting your money. When you're suspended with or without pay, you're not in the class, you're not in the building. You're sitting at home during your suspension. 5-day suspension, 10-day suspension. Like the teacher who was suspended for 10 days for saying the N-word in school. Now, at that time, he was suspended for 10 days straight. 10-day suspension. With pay. But 12 years ago, there was also something from Fox Insider. Teachers pay fines to get their jobs back, but could that be right?
In danger of losing your job? Just buy it back. That's exactly what teachers who were assigned to New York City's now defunct rubber rooms did.
The Department of Education says 159 teachers assigned to rubber rooms while waiting for disciplinary action just paid a fine to get their jobs back. Betsy Combier is a former United Federation of Teachers employee who oversaw the so-called rubber rooms. She would know what was going on in there. Good morning to you, Betsy.
Good morning.
All right, so you have all these teachers who, for a variety of reasons, get sent to these rubber rooms, but they still get paid because it's almost impossible to fire teachers. Now, the claim is that some of them paid $15,000 and got their jobs back. How?
Okay, well, first of all, it's not that hard to fire a teacher. You set up a process where a teacher is accused of something and they are put in a rubber room, and then you make up something about them. That's the problem. That was the rubber room process that I write about, and I call it rubberization. You make up something about somebody, and then you prove it.
So wait, all the people in the rubber rooms had stuff made up about them, or some were actually criminals?
Okay, some were actually guilty of what they were accused of doing. And we're talking about tenured teachers, because tenured teachers get what is called a 30-20 hearing. It's an arbitration hearing, and they get what is called due process. If you're not tenured, you don't get that. But a lot of the people are completely innocent of the charge of incompetency or guilt.
Go ahead. Now take it one step further. But these teachers in the rubber rooms at some point could buy their jobs back. Any of them? Even the ones that may have been guilty?
No. The people that were actually guilty of sexual things or other more serious theft, and that was actually, they saw them with their hand in the cookie jar. I mean, the documentation showed that they were guilty, or they took a program called PIP Plus, which was
then who could buy the job back? Who was enabled to buy the job?
They could not buy the job
Okay, but who
back.
could?
Anybody else. Actually, the 3020A arbitration trial itself is a very, very horrific thing. I mean, it's
well, on its face, a lot of people would wonder why anyone accused of sexual misconduct with a kid would even be in a rubber room and still getting any pay.
Exactly.
But besides that obvious point,
that's the point.
Is this still going on now?
Yes.
Because the rubber rooms are technically defunct, but not really, because now they're just sending teachers to a little room in their actual school. So are they still being able to buy their jobs back?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Well, we have a new chancellor now coming into the New York City schools, Dennis Walcott. Here's what he says about it. It's a very complicated process, and not everyone is the same. There are a variety of factors that determine the future of teachers who've been in the rubber room, and some of them involve fines, and some of them may not. That statement means not much to me. What does it mean to you?
The whole process is broken. If we're having people buy back their job, even if they're innocent, there's something wrong. Because what we need to do is we need to attack the problem of who these teachers are at the very beginning, before they're even out of their jobs. When they're in their jobs, if you see somebody doing something wrong or they're incompetent, say, hey, it's time to...
But you know why that doesn't happen, because the union has the power that it does, and that's how we ended up with all these teachers in these rubber rooms still collecting pay to begin with, right?
It's a combination of the union acting with Board of Ed employers and political factors, and a lot of people are on the job for reasons other than they can teach.
And you wonder why the teachers want to hang on to that union status and the tenure status. They can buy their jobs back.
Right, right. They do get that right
The
to do
system is broken.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, it should be all about the kids, but somehow it's not.
It should be all about the kids, but it's not. Common sense alert. Let me tell you this. I mean, you keep paying a fine? Give me a break. You're sitting there for 8 hours a day. You should be in the room. You should be suspended, sitting at home. You need to be suspended without pay, meaning they won't pay you during your suspension. That's how it is. Common sense. Unions, get your head out of the sand. Coming up next, a Flashback Friday moment. This was when earlier this season we focused in on Pat Benatar and multiple personality syndrome. I'm going to give you my common sense perspective about that, about this doctor who just wanted to raise up insurance money for her, and then still ahead, Lisa Guerrero with 2 investigations. Stay with us. You may remember we focused in on Pat Benatar on multiple personality syndrome. The doctor who racked up insurance bills up to $1 million because of sampling hamburger for humans. My common sense perspective is, if it was multiple personality syndrome, she would have heard about it, done more research before going to the doctor, instead of just racking up medical bills that would have cost insurance companies over $1 million. So if you don't know about multiple personality syndrome, you need to have prior knowledge or do the research report before you see an expert or therapist on multiple personality. So if you think you have that, if you're diagnosed at an early time, you need to have prior knowledge or do some research beforehand to know exactly what you're doing. Just like DVDs and box sets. If you're buying a box set to own all DVDs, you need to have prior knowledge or do some research beforehand to know exactly what you're getting. I mean, that's how it is. That's exactly how it is. Alright. Now another flashback. Now one more flashback moment. You may remember earlier we talked about lobster. Sometime this year or last year, we focused in on lobster and probably where it comes from. But do you know exactly what kind of lobster you get? I decided to share this again for our Throwback Thursday. The question is, which restaurants may be serving you cheap fish instead of lobster? Here's Lisa Guerrero.
Celebrity chef and author Rocco DiSpirito loves lobster.
Lobster roll, the iconic American dish, should be all lobster.
You think what he's saying should be obvious. You order lobster, you get lobster, right? Not always. We tried out lobster dishes of every conceivable kind at 28 restaurants around the country. It may shock you to learn that in 35% of our samples, instead of lobster, we found cheap fish substitutes. At Red Lobster, the largest seafood chain in America, we tested the lobster bisque from 3 locations and scooped out the meat. Then we sent it off to a lab.
We do look at it carefully, but then the final answer is done by DNA analysis.
According to the lab, the lobster in one sample was actually Langostino. 2 others had a combination of Langostino and lobster.
So what is Langostino?
This is a langostino, and it looks nothing like a lobster. As a matter of fact, it's more closely related to the hermit crab and costs about half as much as lobster does per pound. At the world-famous Nathan's in Coney Island, Brooklyn, the lobster salad sandwich we tested came back as this guy, whiting, a much cheaper fish that certainly doesn't look like lobster. Rocco Despirito says restaurants are under pressure to keep costs down, but that's still no excuse.
If you say seafood roll, then it's okay that you put some of this in there.
Call it seafood roll.
Exactly.
Not lobster roll.
I would make the distinction, or you could say lobster and seafood roll. You definitely want your customers to know.
I'm Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. At this restaurant called Get Hooked outside Tampa, the lobster in their lobster roll also came back as whiting.
Yes, people, I did not purposely rip the public off.
The owner says he makes his lobster rolls with a frozen mixture called Lobster Sensations that he buys from an outside vendor. It has lobster, but it's also filled with other cheaper fish, like whiting and pollock. The issue is, on the menu, it doesn't say that there's any other fish except lobster in your lobster roll.
Okay, if you want to get technical, yes. You're absolutely right.
Manhattan's Little Italy is the go-to neighborhood for great seafood, but we wondered what was in the lobster ravioli. At Sophia's, our lab found no lobster, just, are you ready for this? Cheese.
Lisa Guerrero with Inside Edition. Hello? Guess he didn't want to talk to us about his lobster ravioli.
And what about Soup Man? That's the place made famous in the Seinfeld Soup Nazi episode.
No soup for you.
It's supposed to have the best soup in New York City. Guess what? Our test showed that the lobster bisque was loaded with the real thing, lobster.
No soup for you.
We spoke to actor Larry Thomas, who played the so-called soup Nazi.
Our soup can only be the best if we have the right real ingredients.
He's got that right.
Are you kidding me? That is so good.
Isn't it?
Nothing beats the real thing.
Now, Red Lobster told us their lobster bisque can contain meat from Maine lobster, Langostino lobster, or a combination of both. As for Nathan's, they told us the main ingredient in their lobster salad is in fact lobster, but that it does include a healthy mix of lobster, pollock, and whiting. Experts say DNA testing is the only way to know for sure if you're getting real lobster, but they say if your meal is priced too low, that could be a red flag.
So try to remember that from a common sense perspective. Common sense would tell you DNA testing. As Deborah said, DNA testing is the only hope that you know if you're getting the actual real thing. So do you want lobster or seafood? Take your choice. If you take your choice, you'll know exactly what you're getting. Okay. Okay, coming up next. This wrestler dies after desperately looking for water. No joke. This wrestler, caught on camera, was trying to die, was dying of hydration after he was just trying to find water. What in the world is going on? Lisa Guerrero with investigates. Also, why are people driving through the 7-Eleven? Boom, right through. Lisa will have that answer for you. Stay with us. I was watching an episode of iCarly, or a clip of iCarly. I'm not going to play it for you because I do not want to get copyrighted by Paramount. I'm going to describe it to you. Spencer's girlfriend was a teacher. He breaks up with her. She gets mad, takes it out on the students. Like, you get an F. You wash my car. That prompted me to comment saying you should never do that. Never ever should. Common sense should tell you, if your boyfriend broke up with you, don't take it out on people. Get mad all you want, but don't take it out on other people. That's what a common sense perspective should be. Now, moving on. Can you ever imagine this? You're dying of dehydration. So you want to sip of water. You're dying of hydration, but your coach is telling you, no, keep wrestling. But I'm dehydrated. I don't care. You want water? Too bad, sucker. You're about to meet someone, and you will see this video of a person who says he just wanted hydration, but it ended up him being dead. It may be disturbing to watch. Take a look.
Here's Lisa Guerrero. This college athlete is literally dying for a sip of water. He frantically tries to get into this building, but the door is locked. Grant's parents say he ran to this water fountain in a desperate attempt to find water, but the fountain was bone dry. His body was later found just yards away from here. People tried in vain to give 20-year-old Grant Brace CPR.
911. Emergency, and I got a student. We found him passed out. He's not moving. Is he breathing? No, I don't think so.
A lot of people refer to him as a gentle giant. You know, he was a big guy, kind of intimidating to look at, but so soft and kind like a teddy bear.
Grant's grieving parents, Kyle and Jackie Brace, say their son would still be alive today if only his coaches had let him get a sip of water.
He was begging for water. Guys, help me. Please help me.
Can you describe what was going on with Grant in those last moments as he was trying to get through the doors?
It was hot. It was very hot. The surveillance video showed that he was trying to get in the school to get help, wasn't successful, and then was found close to a water fountain on his hands and knees.
An autopsy ruled Grant's death was preventable. The cause? Exertional heat stroke.
It's inexcusable.
On the day he died, Grant's parents say his coaches made him run up and down this steep hill 7 times. But when Grant became exhausted and begged for a water break, one of his coaches allegedly told him to keep going or he'd be kicked off the team.
They called it Punishment Hill. That's what it was known on campus.
It was a grueling day of practice in 80-degree heat here at the University of the Cumberlands in Kentucky. His friends on the wrestling squad made an effort at giving him water. But according to a wrongful death lawsuit, his 2 coaches yelled Grant needed to get the water himself. That's when the young man struggled to find water, only to face a locked door.
He was panicked. He clearly needed help. And he wasn't getting help from any of the coaches or any of his teammates.
Grant's parents and their attorney, Jamie Monkus, sued his wrestling coaches, Jordan Countryman and Jake Sinkovitz, and the University of the Cumberlands for wrongful death.
I knew very early on there was no chance this family was going to be silent in talking about what happened to their son, because their main priority was to raise awareness and to tell the story of what happened.
I think the coaches ultimately were responsible.
His heartbroken sister, Kaylee, shared voice memos the family discovered Grant had recorded before he died.
They don't give me a break. They're all constantly on my ass about the littlest things. It's a pretty messed up situation.
In them, she says Grant refers back to the previous season when he was already worried about his coach's alleged abusive behavior.
Grant's daily blog for mom and dad in case something bad were to happen to me or the coaches were mistreating me.
Hearing your brother say, you know, I'm recording these in case something bad were to happen to me, there's no words.
Grant's final words on those recordings.
I'll see you later. Until next time.
But for Grant, there'd never be a next time. The death of a college athlete, and his parents say it's all because he was denied a sip of water.
It's so egregious. It's absolutely disgusting.
Without admitting wrongdoing, the university and Grant's coaches settled a lawsuit with the parents, the school agreeing to pay $14 million. The university also says it will work with an expert to raise awareness about heat-related injuries. Grant's coaches didn't respond to our request for comment.
Common sense alert. Never, in all the 6 years and over 600 shows, never have I ever been more pissed off. Ever. Are you fucking kidding me? Your fault. You settled this because you didn't want to do a damn thing. You denied him water. You made him run up the hill. You got him exhausted. You were the one that made him go get him himself. There was a dry fountain. He was begging for his fucking life. And you did this. You did this. You did this. If I was outdoors, I would be angry. I'd be more angry than ever. But this is nighttime making. It just fucking pisses me off when nobody does a damn thing to help you. Nobody helps you. You ever heard of heat strokes? You damn well don't, because nobody gives a damn. Nobody gives you breaks. Nobody gives you water breaks. Seriously. This is ridiculous. It's one of the few moments in 6 years doing the show where I am nauseous beyond belief. Son of a bitch. He shouldn't have died. He never should have died. If he wanted water, here's the thing. Bring a bottle of water with you. Number one. Number two, have water fountains available in the gym. In the fucking gym. For crying out loud. Denying him a sip of fucking water? Are you crazy? Are you crazy? When it's 80 degrees outside, humidity is high. Punishment hill. What in the hell is wrong with you? Denying settlements, denying it's ever happened, settling it. Your asses should be in fucking jail for this. Seriously, your ass needs to be in jail for this. Made no wrongdoings. You failed him. Y'all failed him. This guy was begging for his life, and you failed him. You failed him. You failed him for good. You didn't care. You swept under the carpet. You didn't care. You care about anybody else, but you don't care about the one human being that was begging for water when you didn't give two rat asses about what the hell went on. If you want a piece of me, to come on say it to my face. But I damn well know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for 6 years. And let me tell you, in all the over 600 episodes, I have never been more pissed off ever. I've never been as pissed off and angry as I am right now, because if someone denied me water, let me tell you this, if I asked to go get water and they told me no, I would seriously screw them up. Good. Screw them up good. If it was too hot and I asked for a drink, they told me no, I would seriously screw them up. Good. And let me tell you something, all you people out there want to write to me and comment on this video saying that I'm too tough and I'm willing, let me tell you, I don't give a shit. I like pissing people off for good. I like pissing people off. I don't give a shit what you say. You knew what you did was wrong. When we were kids, we were taught that if you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. I hope you coaches out there, I hope y'all rot in hell. I hope y'all go to jail. For good. For good. They're still keeping their jobs. They should be keeping their jobs. They need to rot in hell or in jail for good. For good. It shouldn't have happened. I'm stunned after doing this. Nobody should be dying of dehydration. It's important to keep your body hydrated so that you don't die of dehydration. Okay. I'm fucking pissed off right now after talking about this. Alright, let me okay, let's take a break here. I have had it up to here with all this. I've had it up to here. Coming up next, what would you do if you saw someone ramming a car into a 7-Eleven? What would you do if you were outside and you saw that happen? Another Least Square Classic you will not miss. Stay with us. Did you go to 7-Eleven today? Or a convenience store in your area? Getting that Slurpee? That soda? Your favorite snack? What if you realized it's outside, you're ready to go inside, you may have heard a boom, boom, crashing through. It's happening all over. There's a lot of convenience stores in every state. And on average, there are a lot of crashes there. What is going on? How can this be prevented from happening again? Here's Lisa Guerrero.
You might want to keep a lookout when you're buying your next Slurpee. Records show storefront crashes like these are happening at 7-Eleven stores across the country.
A 7-Eleven in Western Oregon was badly damaged when a car drove through the front door.
Police say that driver didn't even have a license. Watch as this vehicle plows through a 7-Eleven, narrowly missing a customer standing at the register. Another shopper had to be carried out on a stretcher. And this unlucky customer was sent flying after this car plowed through the front entrance of another 7-Eleven. 6 other shoppers also suffered injuries.
It was instantaneous.
Terry Sizemore was paying for gas inside this California 7-Eleven when suddenly this SUV smashed through and mowed her down.
Oh my God.
I know.
Like that.
Yeah. And then I'm underneath the car. She dragged me.
She says she's lucky to still be alive.
Instead of hitting the brake, she hit the gas. And then she panicked, and we think she floored it because she came in very fast.
When you go into 7-Eleven, you expect to walk out with a product, not leave in an ambulance.
She and her attorney, Chris Dolan, reached a settlement with 7-Eleven where she was hit.
When we got into their case, I expected we'd find some other incidents. We were blown away with the number of incidents that were happening at 7-Elevens. So much so that we thought, this is screaming to the company You need to do something to protect your customers.
So why do these storefront crashes keep happening at 7-Elevens nationwide?
7-Eleven is kind of the poster child because they have two things. One, there's a lot of stores, and two, they've done a very poor job of protecting them.
Rob Ryder is the co-founder of the Storefront Safety Council, a safety advocacy group.
There's no barrier here.
He says crashes like these happen at other convenience stores across the country too.
There's about 155,000 convenience stores in the U.S. They get hit 20 times a day. So 20 times a day, a vehicle will run into a convenience store.
Adam Sivia says he was standing out front of this convenience store at a Shell gas station in New Orleans when a driver plowed into him.
It just happened all of a sudden.
Surveillance video shows a blue SUV smash into Adam and his friend, then it flees the scene. His friend limps away on one foot, but Adam says he lost so much blood he flatlined for close to 10 minutes before paramedics revived him.
I just remember sitting on the ground, back up against the wall, then just kind of slowly slumping over. And then woke up a few days later in the hospital without my legs.
The kindergarten teacher has since made a remarkable recovery. He's learned to walk again on these state-of-the-art prosthetics. It turns out there's a very simple solution that experts say would help reduce the vast number of injuries and fatalities from storefront crashes every year. They're these concrete posts called bollards.
They're incredibly effective. You put in some very simple bollards. You know, it's a barrier that's inexpensive. You put 2 in at each parking place, and no one's going to be able to go over the curb ever again.
Adam is now suing that Shell station where he was hit for negligence, saying they should have put up bollards to protect customers after a different driver crashed into the store 2 years before his incident. They deny any wrongdoing.
It's really surprising to learn about these type of accidents and how frequent they happen.
In a statement, 7-Eleven says safety is a top priority, and they say while there are no nationwide bollard regulations, they've begun implementing an ongoing storefront safety initiative to retrofit thousands of their stores with those perimeter safety bollards.
That's common sense. That's common sense right there. Set up those things, and you won't have an accident. There you go. Shell, do the same thing. Just do it. Like Shia LaBeouf says, just do it. You'll never have an accident. We've lost common sense. That's what this whole show is about, is trying to get back common sense. Common sense needs to tell you to do things right. Common sense is good sense. And nothing should tell no common sense should tell you how to get your stuck snack out of the vending machine.
A bird lands on your head and gets tangled in your hair. What do? Come from behind, says animal control specialist Paul Barletta.
Just shield your face, take the bird by the back of the legs and the tail, and simply shoo him away.
Which kind of leads us to the next problem.
Somebody needs to help me. There was this bird on my driveway.
Paul, we've got a bird stuck in the house. What's the right thing to do to get this thing out of here?
What you don't want to do is go and grab him.
That's because the bird could have parasites. Paul says use a broom to gently maneuver the bird into a room with a window.
Close the door, open the window, and he'll naturally go out.
Don't you hate it when your snacks are stuck in the vending machine? It can freak people out. But there is a solution, and it's not this.
The last thing you ever want to do is shake the machine. You're twice as likely to die from a falling vending machine than from a shark attack. So what you could do is you could buy something on top of it, you can knock the item down. You could buy something from the same row, you get two at once, or you could come down. If it's at the bottom, what you could do is you can shake the door a little bit, and sometimes there's a suction or the vibrations will knock it down for you.
Finally, something much more serious. What should you do if you're having a heart attack? Dr. Oz knows.
Call 911, or better yet, look at someone in the eyes and say, hey, you, call 911. Don't try to help me, call 911, because you got a whole army coming out to help you. Number two, if you have aspirin, which I recommend anybody who's got risk factors for heart disease ought to be carrying around, take it and chew it. Don't swallow it, because it takes 15, 20 minutes to get absorbed through your stomach. Chew it, because it gets absorbed through your mouth immediately.
Should you sit down? Should you stand? Should you run? What should you do?
Don't run. You don't want to consume any energy at all. And so if you're able to, you sit on the ground quickly. Why? Because if you pass out, you don't want to bang your head. You just want to be lying on your back. That also raises your blood pressure up, which will pump more blood to your heart, and it also takes the pressure off your heart because you don't have to do any activity.
There you have it. Solutions to whatever life throws at you, even the ridiculous.
That's some common sense for you from this. Now, how are cell phone thieves obtaining your passcode whenever you're setting up security for your phone? It's easier for thieves to do. So what should you do? Let's find out.
If you think the personal information on your phone is safe because it's locked with a passcode, it's not. Bad guys can look over your shoulder, memorize your passcode, and then snatch your phone. Stephen Fabian with more.
Stephen Fabian will have that for you when we return. Stay with us. Before we went on break, we asked the question, how safe are phones when it comes to passcodes? You know, you've set up your passcode and thieves won't try to get in your phone. But how safe are the passcodes? Here's Stephen Fabian.
These days, we're addicted to our phones. Most of us keep our entire lives stored on them, and savvy thieves know it. Cell phone theft is skyrocketing, and experts say if you have an Apple phone, you could be in big trouble if yours gets swiped. From family pictures and videos to financial information, these days our lives live digitally on our phones. So, can you imagine anything worse than having it stolen?
My phone was stolen.
I let my guard down. My phone got stolen.
You know, the next thing I knew, it was gone.
All three of these longtime Apple customers say their lives were turned upside down after their iPhones got swiped while out on the town.
Where do I even begin?
Manhattan economist Rehan Ayaz says she was standing outside a New York City bar when a thief snatched her iPhone.
It was probably the worst 72 hours of my life.
Inside Edition senior investigative producer Charlie McElravy says his was stolen in New Orleans.
These thieves are savvy, they're smart, and they're quick.
This is happening to hundreds of people, if not thousands, just in New York.
Wall Street Journal tech columnist Joanna Stern has been researching this rising crime.
What these thieves are doing is they're targeting people at bars, many who have had a few drinks, who have been out late at night, and they don't really know how these thieves are getting into their phones.
Like every iPhone, mine has a passcode. So how are all those cell phone bandits able to obtain your private passcode? Well, in many cases, they work in teams. One looks over your shoulder as you type in your code, then another robs you when you leave the bar. Greg Frosca says that happened to him while at a bar in Chicago.
I was talking to some friends or some people, and you know, the next thing I knew, it was gone.
So you think they literally just watched you type in your code and then they stole your phone?
This is a pretty professional scam.
Ultimately, if a thief knows your passcode, it's basically game over. I know the passcode.
Once a thief is in your phone, the first thing they do is change your passcode to lock you out.
That passcode unlocks everything. Boom.
And then they go for your money.
In a matter of just an hour, they drained my bank account, $10,000 gone. They sent the money through Apple Pay, and I was just speechless.
About $10,000 directly from my bank account.
While losing that money stings, they all say the real nightmare began when they realized they were locked out of their Apple accounts, meaning no access to all their photos.
All my photos are lost. Everything on my iCloud, and I have so much, I've been using iCloud since I was 15.
10 years of photos and videos just gone. poof, I'm locked out, and Apple says there's nothing they can do about it, and I'm just out of luck.
That really is the collateral damage of the crime. The thieves don't care about your photos. They don't care about the account. Once they've drained the money, they move on to different victims.
Although all their photos still live in Apple's iCloud for privacy reasons, they say Apple won't restore their access.
Apple will not let these people back into their accounts, no matter what.
What do I have to do? I've begged, I've pleaded.
I would grab my passport, grab my driver's license, and I would run to the nearest Apple store to claim my photos back.
In the cloud, her precious memories of 15 years exist, unattainable to her forever, but accessible only to the thieves who stole her phone. Apple says for privacy and security reasons, they do not collect driver's license or passport information when you open an account, so those can't be used to verify your identity.
What I hope is that Apple can make some changes.
Joanna says Apple, the world's most valuable company, should be doing more to help its customers.
There needs to be some other way for you to prove to Apple that you are who you say you are.
Give me my photos back.
The two people we spoke with did end up getting their money back. Apple says they sympathize with customers who've had this experience, say they take the incident seriously and are always trying to find new ways to protect against threats.
Exactly. Next time your iPhone gets stolen or someone knows your passcode, talk to Apple. Or better yet, don't. Common sense alert. If you've been using Apple for years, switch over to a new phone. Switch over to Android, switch over to Samsung. They may have higher security. Get like a Galaxy S9 and ask about their security. That way you may understand about, that way you won't use Apple. You may say, well, what am I supposed to do? Go to Android or Samsung. Apple, you stick with Apple, they may not, you may get your money back, you may not. 50-50 chance. We'll be right back. Now it's time for firework break. You may remember years ago, can you imagine sitting in a classroom, you're throwing paper, and all of a sudden you hear someone say, "Whoever threw that paper, yo mom's a hoe." That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened years ago. 8 years ago, this person records a video of a teacher saying, "Whoever threw that paper, your mom's a hoe." Now that video got 10 million views. 10.4 million views back in December 2014. And comments just rage up like, "T-shirts coming soon, website soon, these shirts are on fire." Samuel Dex was a teacher. With the tone of the class, I would say he probably isn't far wrong. He was so through those kids, and I don't blame him. Part-time teacher, full-time savage. This is so sad. I feel bad for him to deal with these kids. Shame on them. He needs a pay raise for this shit. This man, hands down, for the best teacher in the whole history of substitute teachers. LOL. I think this was the person who shot the video, and he may tell the story. But I'm not gonna time. We'll play that for you on we'll play that for you on Game Break Saturday. But here is the video.
What you say? What you say? What you say? I say whoever threw that paper, your mom's a hoe.
Now that teacher should be fired, but it got over 10 million views, and bottom line here is you shouldn't be videotaping your teachers. That's the thing. Come back in Break Saturday. We're gonna hear from him, his story about how he filmed that video and uploaded to YouTube. We'll hear his side of the story. I'm feeling all better after hearing about dehydration in college. Give me a break. That's all for Give Me a Break Saturday. Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. For everyone here at YouTube, stop bullying, speak up, and please stay hydrated out there. Have a good night.